August 7th, 1949, 4:32 in the morning. Железнодорожная Street, on the outskirts of a small provincial town, exploded with screams. Bare feet strike the cold ground. In her hands, a bundle. Not just a bundle, an infant wrapped in an old blanket. The woman runs as if death itself were on her heels, her hair matted, her dress torn, dried blood on her cheek. "Help!" Her voice breaks into a wheeze. "For God's sake, help me!" The first to run to the shout is Antonina Vassilievna, a grey-haired woman in a nightgown with a shawl thrown over her shoulders. "Ecaterina!" She cannot believe her eyes. "Lord Jesus, Ecaterina Voronova!" The young woman falls to her knees right in the middle of the street. The infant in her arms begins to cry thinly, piercingly, the way only newborns cry who have known fear sooner than mother's milk. He kept me in the cellar." The words burst out between convulsive sobs. "My father. 2 years. Other neighbors gather around Antonina Vassilievna. Someone brings water, someone runs for the paramedic, and someone freezes, seeing a black shadow slowly crawling out of the cellar of the Voronov house, as if darkness itself were trying to reclaim its prey. But let us go back to the beginning, to the moment when the respected factory foreman Stepan Voronov was still just a widower mourning his wife. March, 1947. It is cold in the cemetery. The earth has not yet thawed after winter. Stepan Voronov stands by the fresh grave, clutching his cap in his hands. He is 43 years old, but looks older. The war and the work in the section have left their mark. "Dad, let's go home." Ecaterina touches his shoulder lightly. "Mom wouldn't have liked to see you like this." The 19-year-old daughter is a copy of the late Anna. The same brown eyes, the same gentle smile, the same flaxen hair. Stepan looks at her and sees his young wife, full of life, as she was 20 years ago. "You're right, daughter." His voice is hollow, as if coming from underground. "Mom wouldn't have liked it." The first weeks after the funeral pass in a fog. Ecaterina cooks, cleans, tries to maintain the appearance of a normal life. She postpones her wedding plans. Dmitri, her fiancé, nods understandingly. "It's hard for your father right now. I'll wait." But something is changing in the Voronov house. At first, small things. "Ecaterina." The father enters her room late at night. "You look so much like your mother, especially when you let your hair down." "I know, Dad. Everyone says that." "No, you don't understand. It's as if she has returned to me." There is something in his eyes that makes Ecaterina feel uneasy, but she blames it all on grief. The father lost his beloved wife, with whom he lived for 20 years. Of course, he is not himself. Then the discussions begin, strange, oppressive, making one want to run from the room. "You know, Ecaterina," Stepan sits at dinner, methodically cutting bread. "I've thought a lot. The Voronov line is ancient. We descend from the old believers, from those who kept the true faith." "Dad, what does it matter? It's Soviet power now." "What old believers? Power comes and goes, but blood remains. Pure blood. Do you understand?" Ecaterina does not understand, but nods so as not to upset him. "Your mother, God rest her soul, was from simple people. She was a good woman, I don't deny it, but the blood was common. And you carry the legacy of the ancestors within you. It must not be lost. Dad, I will have children with Dmitri. We will get married as soon as—" Bang. Stepan's fist falls on the table with such force that the dishes jump. "Dmitri! That mongrel! His mother is a gypsy! I forbid it!" Ecaterina sees her father like this for the first time. Bloodshot eyes, veins on his neck swollen. This is not a widower's grief. It is something else. Something frightening. "Dad, you can't forbid me. I am an adult. In my house, my rules, and as long as you are under my roof, you will do as I say." That night, Ecaterina cannot sleep. She lies there listening to her father walking through the house. His steps are heavy, uneven. Sometimes he stops at her door, stands, remains silent, then moves on. In the morning, as if nothing happened. Stepan is calm, even affectionate. "Forgive me, daughter. Nerves, it's hard without Mom." "It's nothing, Dad." I understand. But something has broken, something important, and with each day, the crack becomes wider. Stepan begins to control her every step, where she went, who she spoke to, why she was 5 minutes late. The neighbors whisper that the man has gone mad with grief. But Antonina Vassilievna shakes her head. This isn't from grief, Ecaterina. There is something else here. Take care of yourself, my dear. Then the prohibitions begin. First, not to go to friends. Then not to go out after 6 in the evening. Then not to go out at all without permission. It's for your own good, Stepan repeats. Times are troubled. You never know. Dmitri tries to come. He is not allowed to cross the threshold. He tries a second time. Stepan meets him with an axe. I see you near my house one more time. I'll cut you like a dog. And Dmitri believes him. In Stepan Voronov's eyes, there is madness, a cold, calculated madness. Ecaterina tries to run. One night she gathers her things, slowly opens the door. Her father is waiting for her on the porch. Where are you going, daughter? Dad, I can't take this anymore. Let me go. Let you go? He shakes his head. You don't understand. You are the last with pure blood from the Voronov line. Your duty is to continue the line, but not with just anyone. Only with someone worthy. With whom? Dad, are you delirious? I have thought of everything. His voice is calm, and this calm gives you the chills. Everything will be correct, as the ancestors left it. And then Ecaterina understands. She understands with such clarity that her legs go weak. She looks into her father's eyes, her own father, and sees something there that makes one want to scream. No, Dad, no, you can't think like that. Get in the house, Ecaterina. We'll talk tomorrow. She goes in. What else is left for her? She has nowhere to run. Her father knows everyone in town. He will find her anywhere. The police. Who will believe her? Stepan Voronov, a respected man, a production leader, a widower. The next evening, her father brings dinner to her room himself. It is strange. Usually they eat together in the kitchen. I made your favorite soup with meatballs, like Mom used to make. The soup is tasty. Ecaterina eats mechanically without tasting it. In her head, there is only one question. What to do? How to escape this nightmare? Drink some tea. Her father places the cup in front of her. With mint, it calms the nerves. The tea is sweet, too sweet. But Ecaterina drinks obediently. She has no strength to argue. Her head starts to spin after the third sip. Dad, what did you... Hush, hush. He strokes her head. Everything will be fine. Daughter, I have arranged everything. We will have wonderful descendants, pure, true. The room sways. Ecaterina tries to get up, but her body does not obey her. The last thing she sees is her father's face, calm, peaceful, mad. But that evening, when her father placed the cup of tea in front of her, she did not yet know that it was the last sip of her freedom. There are moments in life that divide it into before and after. For Ecaterina Voronova, such a moment was an ordinary April evening, 1947. Ordinary, if you didn't know what the man she called father was preparing. Let us stop here. Think about it. The father, the one who is supposed to protect, the one who taught you to ride a bicycle, consoled you after the first bad grade, promised to chase away all the boys who would dare to upset his little girl. And behold, this very man. But let us not anticipate. Let us go back to that evening. 6 o'clock in the evening. Stepan Voronov stands in the doorway of his daughter's room. In his hands, he holds a tray with dinner. This is the first oddity. Usually they eat together in the kitchen. Ecaterina sits on the bed, leafing through an old magazine, The Worker Woman. She doesn't even look at the pages, just a mechanical movement, an attempt to occupy her hands, her thoughts, time. Ecaterina. The father's voice is gentle, caring. That's how he was before Mom's death, before all this. I made dinner, your favorite soup. She looks up. Her father looks normal. For the first time in the last few weeks, absolutely normal, freshly shaved, in a clean shirt, even smiling with a real smile, not that hideous grimace that had been twisting his face lately. Thank you, Dad. She takes the tray. But what about you? I already ate. I nibbled at the factory. You eat. He sits on the chair by the window, watching her eat. And in this gaze there is something. Tenderness, sadness, regret. Ecaterina cannot decipher it. The soup is indeed tasty, with meatballs, as Mom liked to cook. Even dill on top, finely chopped fresh. Where from fresh dill in April? He probably got it from Antonina Vassilievna. She grows greens in the cellar. Dad, Ecaterina puts down the spoon. Let's talk. Let's talk normally, like before. About what, daughter? About what is happening with you. You just realize that it is wrong, the way you are behaving. Stepan is silent for a long time, then sighs. Ecaterina, there are things you don't understand. That are above the two of us. Ancient, more important. What can be more important than family? A normal family. The line. His voice becomes hard. Continuing the line, the purity of blood, that is what the ancestors left as a legacy, that— Dad! Stop it! Ecaterina stands up. The soup remains uneaten. What ancestors? What purity of blood? It's like you're from another century. Sit down. The tone accepts no objections. Finish the soup and drink the tea. The tea is already on the tray, in a porcelain cup with blue flowers, from Mum's set. That set which was taken out only on holidays. I don't want tea. Ecaterina. Her father stands up, approaches. Please. It is important to me. Drink the tea. It's with mint. Mom always said mint calms, and here is the first alarm signal. Mom never said that. Mom didn't like mint. She said it gave her heartburn. Ecaterina is the one who has loved mint tea since childhood. But she has no strength to argue. The last weeks have exhausted her. The constant tension, fear, attempts to understand what is happening to her father. Ecaterina takes the cup, the first sip. Sweet, too sweet. She doesn't like a lot of sugar, but the mint covers the taste. And something else bitter, unfamiliar. What is this taste? A new variety? He looks at her without blinking. From the pharmacy, medicinal, good for women's health. The second sip. The third. Her head begins to spin almost immediately. It doesn't resemble ordinary dizziness. It is as if her whole body turns to cotton wool. Dad. Her tongue slurs. What did you— Forgive me, daughter. He catches her, doesn't let her fall. Forgive me, but it can't be otherwise. You wouldn't have understood, you wouldn't have agreed. But it is necessary for the line, for the future. The room floats, objects double, triple. Ecaterina tries to push her father away, but her hands do not obey her. As if through cotton she hears his voice. I prepared everything. It is comfortable there, safe. No one will disturb us. We will create a new generation. Pure, correct, as the elders left it. Darkness comes in waves. The last thing Ecaterina sees is her father's face. Calm, determined, and absolutely, irremediably insane. Waking up is like surfacing from the bottom of a deep abyss. First the pain, a dull, nagging pain in the back of the head. Then the cold, a piercing, damp cold, of a cellar. Ecaterina opens her eyes abruptly. Darkness. Almost total darkness. Only somewhere far away, high up, a dim light. She tries to sit up. Her head spins. She feels nauseous. How much time has passed? A day? A week? Gradually, her eyes adjust. She sees the outline of the room. It is indeed the cellar of their house, but changed, transformed. Along the wall, a bunk with a mattress. A real mattress, not a sack with straw. In the corner, a bucket with a lid. A primitive toilet. On a rough table, a pitcher of water, a bowl, a mug, and books. A stack of books. Ecaterina tries to stand up. Her legs go weak. She is forced to lean against the wall. Cold, damp, covered with lime. She takes a few steps, studying her prison. Yes, it is a prison. A real prison, equipped with frightening meticulousness. The door is new, massive, oak with iron hinges. You won't break this with bare hands. The window, the cellar's only eye to the outside, is bricked up. Fresh brick. The mortar hasn't dried completely yet. How long did her father prepare? A week? A month? Or did he start immediately after Mom's death? Ecaterina approaches the door, pulls the handle. Locked, of course, locked. She knocks, first with her palm, then with her fist. Dad! Dad, open up! Let me out! Silence. Dad, please, this is madness. You can't keep me here. Nothing, only the echo of her own voice and silence. Ecaterina looks around again. On the table next to the books lies a note. Her father's handwriting, neat, old-fashioned, with loops. Daughter, when you read this, I will be at work. There is water in the pitcher. Under the table is food for one day. Behave quietly. Screaming is useless. I took care of the soundproofing. We talk in the evening. Dad. Soundproofing. He took care of the soundproofing. It means he planned ahead. He thought of everything, every detail. Under the table is indeed a bundle. Bread, boiled eggs, apples, even salt in a matchbox. A caring father, a caring kidnapper, a caring madman. Ecaterina sits on the bunk. What to do? How to get out? Screaming is indeed useless. She feels it. The cellar is deep, the walls are thick, and if her father also did soundproofing... God, what is she thinking? Soundproofing. As if it were normal. As if fathers all over the country lock their daughters in cellars. Tears rush to her eyes, but Ecaterina controls herself. She mustn't give in. She must think, search for a way out. There is always one. She inspects the room again, more carefully. Here is an old vent, covered with a grate. The grate is new, solid, but behind it is the darkness of the tunnel. Maybe there are tools in the corner. More precisely, the lack of them. Her father took everything that could be used, neither shovel nor crowbar nor even a nail, just the bare walls, the table, the bunk, and the books. Why books? Ecaterina approaches the table, takes the first book. Domostroy. An old edition, pre-revolutionary. She opens it at random, about how to educate daughters and marry them off. A hysterical, sick laugh bursts from her throat. The next book, the Bible, also old, with yellowed pages. The bookmark is at the Old Testament, the story of Lot. Ecaterina throws the book with disgust. The others, medical manuals, obstetrics and women's diseases, hygiene of pregnancy, care of the newborn, everything is clear, monstrously clear. Ecaterina knocks on the door again, strikes until her hands hurt, until bloody calluses form. Let me out! You have no right! It's a crime! Dad, wake up! But in response, only silence and her own echo and the beating of her heart, loud in this cursed silence. Time crawls. Without a clock, without sunlight, it is impossible to understand how much has passed. An hour, 2, 5. Ecaterina tries to shake the ventilation grate. Useless. She checks every brick in the walled-up window. Everything is done thoroughly. She cannot reach the door hinges from the outside, either. Her father thought of everything, absolutely everything. And suddenly, a realization, cold, frightening. If he prepared so meticulously, if he thought everything out like this, he won't change his mind, he won't come to his senses, he won't release her. This is not a temporary aberration, this is a plan, a monstrous, insane plan. And she, Ecaterina, is the central piece of this plan. Her legs give way, Ecaterina sinks to the floor, pressing her back against the cold wall. Her head is empty. Even fear recedes, giving way to a state of numbness. And then she hears steps on the stairs. You know, there are prisons built by the state with bars, guards, a regime. And there are prisons that close people build, out of love, out of madness, out of both at the same time. Ecaterina Voronova ended up in exactly such a prison. The steps on the stairs, heavy, rhythmic. Ecaterina would recognize this walk out of 1,000. Her father always went down to the cellar like this for tools, only now he wasn't going down for a hammer or a saw. He was coming down to her. The noise of the bolt, the creaking of hinges, new, greased, but still creaking in the dampness of the cellar. And here he is, standing in the doorway. Stepan Voronov. Father. Jailer. Madman. You woke up, daughter. How do you feel? Ecaterina looks at him and doesn't recognize him. This is not the man who taught her to ride a bicycle, not the one who read her stories before bed. It is someone else, wearing her father's mask. Let me out. Her voice is hoarse from shouting and tears. Dad, please, let me out. Ecaterina. He enters, carefully closing the door behind him. Don't be like that. You're a smart girl. You have to understand. It's for your own good. For your own good. Think about these words. How many monstrous things have been committed for the good? How many lives broken by people who were sure they were acting with the best intentions? Stepan puts a new bundle of food on the table. Calm, banal movements, as if he hadn't locked his daughter in the cellar, but, I don't know, was raising rabbits. I brought you dinner and clean underwear. He points to the bunk. There is a basin and soap. I will bring water every day. Dad? Ecaterina takes a step toward him. Look at me! Look! It's me, your daughter! How can you? Precisely because you are my daughter. His face becomes harsh. Precisely for that reason. You don't understand, Ecaterina. You don't understand what responsibility weighs on us. And it begins, what to call it, lecture, sermon. The delirium of a madman. The Voronov line descends from the old believers without priests. My grandfather, your great-grandfather, fled here from Kurzenetz during the persecution. They kept the true faith, the true laws, and the main law is the purity of blood. Ecaterina listens, and with every word, the horror grows. This is not a temporary madness. It is a system, a whole twisted system of beliefs that her father, it seems, carried within him for years. In the Tsar's time, one could still find worthy people. But now there are mongrels everywhere, without race. Your Dmitri, gypsy mother, father unknown, Ilyusha Frolov, whom you ran after in school, from deportees. Everyone is spoiled. Here it is important to understand the context of the time, 1947. The war has just ended. The country is in ruins. People have lost loved ones, homes, faith in something bright. And behold, on this soil, the wildest, most frightening ideas flourish, especially in the minds of those who have lost their support. Stepan lost his wife. It is as if this loss opened a valve in his consciousness, letting out all the darkness that had accumulated for decades. Only one way remains. Only one way to preserve the purity of the line. Just as the ancestors did in hard times. Just as it is written in the holy books. What are you blabbering about? Ecaterina bursts into a scream. What holy books? Where is that written? Abraham and Sarah were brother and sister, Lot and his daughters, after the destruction of Sodom. Shut up! She covers her ears. Shut up! This is a sick, twisted interpretation. You are a monster! The blow is not strong, but unexpected. Her father's palm leaves a hot mark on her cheek. Don't you dare speak like that. I'm your father. I know better what is good for you. The first blow. The line has been crossed. And both understand that. Stepan takes a step back, as if he himself was scared by his deed. I didn't want to. Ecaterina, forgive me, but you must understand, you must accept. In time you will understand that I am right. He leaves, leaving her alone. Again the noise of the bolt. Again steps on the stairs, again silence. What happens to a person in the first days of detention? Psychologists speak of stages, similar to experiencing grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Only Ecaterina Voronova got stuck between anger and bargaining. Acceptance? No, never. The following days merge into an endless string. In the morning, steps on the stairs. Her father brings breakfast, water for washing, tries to talk about ordinary things, the weather, work at the factory, as if it were normal, as if they were sitting at the kitchen table, not in the cellar. Ecaterina tries different tactics. Tears, useless. Screams, even more so. Attempts to reach the remnants of reason. He simply doesn't hear. Dad, but what will people say? The neighbors are already asking where you are. I said you went to Aunt Nyura in Kostroma, visiting. After Mom's death, you need to relax. But Dmitri, he won't believe it. I explained it to Dmitri man to man. He won't come again. Explained man to man. What hides behind these words? Threats? Beating? Or something worse? Ecaterina is afraid to ask. On the fourth day she tries to run. The plan is simple. Wait for her father to enter and rush for the door. He is no longer young. She is 19 years old. She is faster. Stepan comes down as usual, opens the door, enters, and Ecaterina rushes. But Stepan is prepared. Of course he is prepared. He thought everything out. His hand, an iron vise on her wrist. He twists it, pins her against the wall, not painfully but firmly. desperately firmly. "Fool!" He shakes his head. "Did you think I didn't know you would try? I am your father after all. I see right through you." And then Ecaterina does what he didn't expect. She bites. Her teeth clench on his forearm, pierce the shirt, reach the skin. "Stepan howls, lets her go, 1 second. And Ecaterina is at the door, hand on the latch, blow from behind, not with a fist, with something heavy. The world explodes in pain and red circles. Ecaterina falls. When she recovers, her head is buzzing. She tastes blood in her mouth. She is lying on the bunk, on her forehead a wet rag. Her father is sitting nearby. On his hand is a rough bandage. In his eyes, something resembling regret. "Why did you do that, daughter?" His voice is tired. "I don't want to harm you, but if you resist, I will have to take measures." "Measures? What measures? Chains? Ropes? Or, I thought, maybe you are lonely here alone. Maybe that's why you are so restless. It's okay, soon that will change. Soon you will have company." Ecaterina doesn't understand immediately, and when she understands, nausea rises in her throat. "No," she whispers. "Dad, no. You mustn't. I will behave, I promise. Just don't. Hush, hush." He strokes her head, and from this touch she wants to scream. "Everything will be fine. I thought everything out. I have a plan." Plan. He has a plan. You know what is most frightening in this story. Not the cellar, not the locked door, not even the father's madness. The most frightening is the calm, the meticulousness. Stepan Voronov does not thrash in fits of madness. He is consistent, calculated. His every step is thought out, every detail is in place. He prepares breakfast for his daughter and goes to work. He stands at the lathe, fulfills the plan, receives thanks from the foreman, returns home, goes down to the cellar, brings dinner. And in his head, this is normal, correct, necessary. In the following days, Ecaterina notices changes. New things appear in the cellar, a crib in the corner, old but solid. Diapers in the chest, bottles on the shelf. Her father is preparing for something concrete, for something planned. "Dad," asks Ecaterina, striving to keep her voice from trembling, "what do you intend?" "You will find out." He smiles, and this smile is more frightening than any threat. "Soon you will find out. I have almost prepared everything. Very little remains." And then Ecaterina understood. Her father is preparing for something definitive and irreversible. A person gets used to anything, even to a nightmare, especially if the nightmare is dressed in the clothes of the everyday. If it comes on schedule, if it has its rituals and rules. May 1947. Ecaterina Voronova has been living in the cellar for a month already. 30 days, 720 hours, 43,200 minutes. She counts. She counts every day, making notches with a nail on the wooden leg of the bunk. The only way not to go mad, to hold on to time, to numbers, to something concrete. Her detention has acquired a schedule monstrous in its banality. 7 o'clock in the morning, steps on the stairs, always at 7 sharp. Stepan is pedantic. Breakfast, porridge, bread, sometimes an egg. A mug of milk for health, as Dad says. He sits on the chair by the door, watches her eat. He doesn't leave until she eats everything, down to the last crumb. "You need strength," he repeats. "You must be healthy, strong." What does she need strength for? He doesn't specify, nor is it necessary. Ecaterina understands. After breakfast, the walk. That is what Stepan calls those 15 minutes when he allows his daughter to walk around the cellar. 10 steps to one side, 10 to the other. He stands at the door, supervises, sometimes comments. Back straight, breathe deeper. Movement is useful for the body. Then he leaves for the factory. 8 hours of solitude. 8 hours of silence, disturbed only by the sounds from above. Neighbors' footsteps, barking dogs, sometimes snippets of conversations. The world continues to live its life, not knowing that a few meters underground. Ecaterina tried to scream during these hours, beat the walls, called for help. Useless. Her father didn't lie about the soundproofing. Old mattresses, nailed to the ceiling, dampen the sound. a thick layer of sawdust between the floorboards. Even the vent is stuffed with rags. In the first week, she looked for a way out. She checked every centimeter of her prison. She tried to dig under the door. The earth is packed hard, sprinkled with crushed glass. Dismantle the brickwork in the window. The mortar is hard. Without tools, it doesn't yield. Shake the ventilation grate. It is cemented forever into the wall. Her father thought of everything. Absolutely everything. 6 o'clock in the evening, dinner, again the ritual with food, again the fixed gaze. After dinner, discussions. Stepan brings books, reads aloud. The same ones, Domostroy, the Bible, medical manuals. His favorite topic, genetics. Or rather, his perverted understanding of genetics. See, Ecaterina? He puts his finger on the yellowed page. It says here, marriages between close relatives among aristocrats to preserve the purity of blood. Egyptian pharaohs, European monarchs. But right there further on it writes about degeneration, about diseases. Slander, he dismisses with his hand. The envy of common people. True, strong blood only gets stronger from such unions. Arguing is useless. In the picture of his world, all facts are adjusted to a mad theory. White becomes black, black, white. Logic is powerless before such conviction. Sometimes Stepan brings newspapers, reads news about the reconstruction of the country, about new construction sites, about production leaders. As if trying to create the illusion of normality. As if they were sitting in an ordinary room, not in an underground dungeon. Look, see, he shows a note. Our factory exceeded the plan again and they mentioned me. Foreman Voronova sets an example for the youth. Are you proud of your father? Ecaterina is silent. What can you say? Yes, Dad, I am proud that by day you are a production leader and by evening my jailer. Weeks merge into months. May changes to June. It becomes warmer in the cellar, more stuffy. The ventilation is clogged, the air is stale. Sometimes Ecaterina feels sick from the lack of oxygen. And then she starts feeling sick for another reason. At first, she blames it all on bad food, the stuffiness. But when her period doesn't come, when in the morning she turns inside out from the smell of porridge, when her breasts become painfully sensitive. No, this cannot be. It shouldn't be. But the calendar is implacable. The notches on the bunk leg don't lie. 2 months without a period, morning sickness, all the signs. Ecaterina remembers that night. After the first escape attempt, her father gave her something to calm the nerves. She drank without thinking. Her head ached anyway after the blow. She woke up only toward morning, with a heaviness in her whole body and a vague feeling that something was wrong. She tried not to think about it, to suppress it, to forget, to convince herself that nothing happened, but you cannot fool the body. When Stepan notices that his daughter hasn't touched breakfast for the 3rd day in a row, he frowns. You must eat. It is important. I feel nauseous. From what? A strange light lights up in his eyes. Ecaterina, do you have other symptoms? She is silent, but the silence is more speaking than any words. Stepan stands up, approaches. His face, just one look at his face, enthusiasm, triumph, a mad happiness. It's a sign! He falls to his knees in front of his daughter. A sign from above! See, Ecaterina, see! The Lord himself blesses our union. Don't you dare! She pushes him away. Don't you dare call this a blessing! It's a curse, filth! But Stepan doesn't hear. He is in his own world, where everything happening is part of a grand plan. It will be a boy, he mumbles. Definitely a boy. Strong, healthy, the continuator of the line, and then there will be others, a whole dynasty, pure, true. Others. He plans others. Ecaterina covers her face with her hands. It's over. It's the end. Now he surely won't let her out. Never. Stepan bustles around her like a brooding hen around a chick. He brings diapers, little shirts, rattles. Everything old. From the attic, probably Ecaterina's baby things. Look! He shows her a ragged teddy bear. It was your favorite toy, Toptishka the bear, do you remember? Now it will belong to your son. Son? He is convinced it will be a son. One evening, when Stepan is particularly talkative, Ecaterina asks, Dad, but what will you tell people? When the child is born, how will you explain? But no one will find out. For now, when the boy grows up, when he is ready, then we will all come out together, like a family. Like a family. Of course, you, me, our son, then the other children too. We will go somewhere far away, where no one knows us. We will start a new life. A new life built on lies, madness, and violence. And above, in the world of living people, questions were already starting to be asked. There is a special torture. To hear life, but not be able to touch it. The ancient Greeks called this the torments of Tantalus. Ecaterina Voronova lived this torment every day. July 1947. The 4th month of detention. Her tummy has rounded visibly. Hiding the pregnancy becomes increasingly difficult. But hide it from whom? The only person seeing her is her father. And he jubilates at the sight of the growing belly, as if this were his personal victory over common sense and humanity. But let's talk about voices, about those voices from above, which were for Ecaterina simultaneously salvation and a curse. Every morning, at 8:30 sharp, Antonina Vassilievna's steps were heard. Heavy, rhythmic. The neighbor has bad legs, walks swaying a little. Ecaterina would recognize this walk out of 1,000. Antonina Vassilievna went to the well for water, then back. Sometimes she stopped to chat with other neighbors. And here began the most torturous part. Anna Pavlovna, haven't you seen Ecaterina Voronova for a long time? Antonina Vassilievna's voice was heard muffled but distinct. The cellar isn't deep, and in summer when the windows are open. No, I haven't seen her. Stepan says she went to relatives, to Kostroma, it seems. That is strange, 4th month already, and no letter, no news. Ecaterina pressed herself against the wall, right under the small window, under the cursed small window, and screamed without sound, I am here, help me! But the soundproofing worked flawlessly. Her father hadn't made the effort for nothing. Mattresses on the ceiling, sawdust between boards, rags in the vent. Everything stifled sounds from inside, but let those from outside pass. A sadistic mockery of fate. In the evening, it was worse. The youth from the neighborhood gathered in the yard. They played the accordion, sang songs. Sometimes Ecaterina heard the voice of Dmitri, her former fiancé. He came to the Petrov family to visit. Their son was friends with him. Nikolai, why are you so sour? Asked Petru Petrov. Still pining for your proud one. Leave it be. Dmitri's voice sounded hollow, joyless. What proud one? She left, and that's that. Maybe she'll return. She won't return. Her father gave me clearly to understand not to even hope. Ekaterina clenched her fists until they hurt. Dmitri, my dear, did you really believe? Do you really not feel that something is wrong? She tried to knock during hours when her father was at the factory and there were people above. She knocked on the heating pipes. Maybe the sound will travel. She knocked with a stone on the wall. Maybe they will hear. She even tried to remove a few bricks from the walled-up window to slip a note through. Useless. The pipes didn't resonate. Her father probably rapped them with something. The walls stifled the knocking, and the bricks. After an hour of struggle, she gouged out the plaster and understood that behind the brickwork there is another layer of boards, and behind the boards, earth. Her father didn't just wall up the window, he turned it into a blind wall. But one day, this was at the beginning of August, a stifling day. Even in the cellar it was hard to breathe. Ekaterina was lying on the bunk, listening to the movements of the child in her belly. He was already moving actively, sometimes kicking painfully. A fighter is growing, she thought with bitter tenderness. From above, voices were heard. Antonina Vassilievna and someone else, an unfamiliar official voice. Is Comrade Voronov home? He's at the factory, but what happened? Well, here it is. I am from the military commissariat. Documents need to be checked. His daughter, Ekaterina Stepanovna, is on our record for labor service, and she, they say, has left. She left, confirmed Antonina Vassilievna. But doubt sounded in her voice. To Kostroma, it seems, and she didn't leave an address. We should make an official inquiry there. I don't know the address. Stepan didn't say. That is strange. The commissar coughed. All right, I will stop by this evening to talk to him. The steps moved away, but Antonina Vassilievna remained in place. Ecaterina felt it. She remained standing right above the spot where the cellar was. Lord, muttered the neighbor. Ecaterina, my girl, where are you? And then Ecaterina couldn't stand it anymore. She grabbed the metal bowl and began to beat on the heating pipe. Beat with all her might, rhythmically, like in Morse code. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. SOS alarm signal. Maybe she will understand. Above, everything went quiet. Then, psst, 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 called Antonina Vassilievna. Did you crawl into the basement again? Scat from there! But there was not that intonation in her voice. Not the one used to speak to cats. It was the intonation of a person who suspected something, who began to put 2 and 2 together. In the evening, Ecaterina heard the commissar talking to her father. Stepan was calm, circumstantial. Yes, my daughter is in Kostroma at Aunt Anna Nikolaevna's. The address. Wait, let me look for the notebook. I left it at the factory. I'll bring it tomorrow for sure. The commissar left, but the seed of doubt had been planted. In the following days, Ecaterina noticed. Antonina Vassilievna came around their house more often, either to ask for salt or to talk about the weather, and she kept eavesdropping, looking closely. Stepan, why do you go to the cellar so often? She asked once. Well, here it is. I decided to organize, finally. A lot of old junk gathered. I'm throwing it out little by little. Maybe I can help you. Thank you. No need. I'll manage myself. But Antonina Vassilievna didn't give up. It was as if she sensed something. That special scent that Russian women who survived the war have. They smell trouble from a mile away. Once, when Stepan was at the factory, Ecaterina heard a strange sound. A scratching. Someone was trying to open the cellar door from the outside. Locked! Muttered Antonina Vassilievna. And a new lock! A padlock! Why does he need a padlock on the cellar? Ecaterina held her breath. Come on, guess, understand. Ecaterina, the neighbor called softly. Ecaterina, my girl, are you there? Ecaterina rushed to the door, began to pound. Yes, yes, I am here. Antonina Vassilievna, help me, for God's sake, help me. But Antonina Vassilievna had already moved away. The cursed soundproofing had done its job, or perhaps not completely, because in the following days, Antonina Vassilievna behaved strangely. She no longer spoke to Stepan about his daughter, no longer asked about the cellar, but Ecaterina sensed, the neighbor is planning something. Then happened what could have become salvation, if. But this is already the next part of the story. For now, Ecaterina lay in her underground dungeon, counted the child's movements, and listened to the voices from above. The voices of free people. The voices of those who could have helped, if they had known. And somewhere there, in the house opposite, sat Antonina Vassilievna, and thought. She remembered how 4 months ago she had seen Ecaterina, pale, frightened. She remembered Stepan's strange behavior, the new lock on the cellar, the lack of letters from Kostroma. She lived through the war, lived through famine, lived through her husband's death, and in these years she learned the main thing, to listen to her instinct. And her instinct screamed, Trouble! There is trouble with the girl! And then Antonina Vassilievna decided on what could have changed everything. February 1948, the 10th month of detention. There are moments when time seems to stop, when every second expands into an eternity. For Ecaterina Voronova, such a moment became the night of February 14th to 15th, the night when a new life appeared in the underground darkness. The first pains began toward morning. First, a dull pain in the lower belly, resembling a period. Ecaterina didn't understand immediately, thought they were false, as it was written in those medical books with which her father tormented her. But the pain grew, in waves, stronger and stronger. Toward noon it became clear it started. Let us stop here, imagine. A young girl who has never given birth, locked in a cellar, alone, without medical help, without support, without hope. And here comes the hour when nature demands its rights, when the body begins the ancient, agonizing process of bringing a new life into the world. Dad! Shouted Ecaterina, pounding on the door. Dad, it started! Do you hear? I am giving birth! But Stepan is at the factory. Until evening there are 6 more hours, 6 endless hours. The contractions became more frequent. Now there was no doubt that they are not practice, they are real. Ecaterina walked through the cellar, 10 steps one way, 10 back, leaning on the wall. Every new wave of pain made her moan, grab onto something, seek support. You know what is most frightening about birth? Not the pain. You can endure the pain. The most frightening is the unknown, especially for someone at the first birth. Is what is happening normal? Is the baby positioned well? Won't a hemorrhage start? And now, multiply this fear by the conditions in the cellar, by loneliness, by the realization that if something goes wrong. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Contractions come every 10 minutes. Ecaterina can no longer walk. She lies on the bunk, clenched into the rough fabric of the mattress. The sheet is wet with sweat. In her head, snippets of prayers she learned from her mother. Lord, help. Most Holy Mother of God, do not leave me. Irony of fate, to pray in the hell created by one's own father, but what else is left? 6 o'clock in the evening. Finally, footsteps on the stairs, but not just one person's. Stepan isn't alone. The door opens, father enters, and behind him, a hunched figure in a black headscarf. Old woman Fekla, the midwife. Ecaterina recognizes her. She delivered half the babies in town. The old woman looks up, sees the situation, the cellar, the bolted door, the pregnant girl on the cot, and her face turns white as chalk. Lord, have mercy, she whispers. Stepan, what have you done? Do your job. The father's voice is harsh. Help her. As for the rest, forget it. How can I forget? This is a... Forget, he said. He grabs the old woman by the shoulder, squeezing until she screams. Do you have grandchildren? Petru and Mashka? Good kids. It would be a pity if something happened to them. There it is. The direct threat. No more hints, no unclear words. A pure, undisguised threat against the children. Fekla looks at Stepan and sees. He is not bluffing. In his eyes is that determination that drives madmen. He is capable of anything. Fine. The old woman lowers her head. Fine, just get out. This isn't men's work. Stepan hesitates, then nods. I'll be upstairs. Call me? When? He leaves. Ecaterina and Fekla remain alone. The old woman approaches the cot, sits down next to it. Her wrinkled hand rests on the belly, palpating it. How long have you had contractions? Ow, a new wave of pain. Gently, my dear, gently breathe. Like this, deeply. Good girl. Fekla's hands are skillful, calm. How many births has she delivered? Hundreds, thousands. But like this one. Ecaterina, whispers the old woman while checking the dilation. What is happening? How did you end up here? Father locked me up 10 months ago. He talked about the purity of blood, about the lineage. Fekla crosses herself. God forbid. The man has completely lost his mind. Ecaterina turns her face away, silent, but the old woman understands everything. Her face becomes even paler. God, Ecaterina, my dear, how is such a thing possible? Help me! Ecaterina grabs her hand. I beg you, help me. Tell someone. Call the militia. I can't. Fekla shakes her head and there are tears in her eyes. He'll kill the grandkids. He's not joking, I see that. Forgive me, child. Forgive a sinful old woman. A new contraction. Stronger than the previous ones. Ecaterina screams. All right! Fekla becomes operational. It's close. We'll give birth soon. The water broke an hour ago. Good. That means everything is going as it should. Listen to me carefully. And the ancient ritual begins. Old as the world. The dance of life and death. The midwife commands. Breathe. Push. Rest. Ecaterina obeys. In these minutes there is no past, no future. There is only pain and instinct, only the body that knows what to do. But here is what is interesting. In the hardest moments, when the pain becomes unbearable, Ecaterina doesn't think of herself. She thinks of the child, the tiny being that is fighting now too. Carving its way to the light. To what light? To the light of the gas lamp in the basement. I see the head, shouts Fekla. Come on, my dear, one last effort. And Ecaterina gathers all her strength, everything she has left. In these months, she learned to save her strength, to ration it. But now she gives everything, A cry, but not hers. The thin, piercing cry of a newborn. A boy. Thekla lifts the tiny red and wrinkled body. A live, healthy boy. Father was right, as if his mad will materialized. Thekla cuts the umbilical cord, wipes the baby, wraps him in the prepared diaper, and places him on the mother's chest. And here happens what Ecaterina did not expect. Something for which it is impossible to prepare. She looks at this tiny, wrinkled red being that is crying, and feels love, an instant, all-encompassing love. The maternal instinct covers her like a tsunami. It doesn't matter how this child appeared. It doesn't matter under what circumstances. He is hers, her son, her blood, and she will defend him from everything, from everyone, even from her own father. "How will you name him?" asks Thekla, gathering the traces of birth. "Andrei," answers Ecaterina, without hesitation. Andrei, in honor of her grandfather, her mother's father. Not in honor of Stepan, never in honor of Stepan. The door opens. Father stands in the doorway. In his eyes is the same mad delight that Ecaterina has learned to hate. "A boy. Is it true? Is it a boy?" "A boy," confirms Thekla. "Healthy, 3.5 kilograms. Stepan approaches, looks at the grandson. No, not at the grandson, at the son. In his distorted world, this is the son, the continuator of the lineage. "Wonderful," he whispers. "A wonderful boy. See, Ecaterina. See how everything turned out right?" Ecaterina is silent, holds the child tighter. Between her and her father is an abyss, an impassable abyss. Thekla gathers her things. "I'm leaving. I'll stop by tomorrow to check." "Thank you." Stepan shoves money at her. "And remember, I remember everything." She leaves hurriedly, like from a house touched by the plague, and carries the secret with her. The terrible secret of the Voronov house's basement. Stepan remains, bustles around, brings clean water, linens, food for Ecaterina. "Now everything will change," he mumbles. "Now we have a future. The boy will grow up strong, smart, worthy, and then there will be other children. A whole dynasty. Other children. He is still planning other children." Ecaterina looks at her sleeping son, so small, so defenseless, born in darkness, condemned to darkness. No, that will not happen. Before, she thought only of her own escape. Now everything has changed. Now she has Andrei and she will escape. She will absolutely escape, for his sake. Motherhood gives her powers, incredible powers. Ecaterina feels it, how something hardens inside, becoming tougher than steel. She is no longer just a victim. She is a mother. And mothers are capable of the impossible. Stepan says something, but Ecaterina doesn't listen. She looks at her son and thinks, he is planning, father has relaxed, the heir is born, the main goal has been achieved. He will become less vigilant. And then, while Ecaterina clutched her newborn son to her chest, she did not yet know that upstairs the countdown of the last days of her imprisonment had already begun. Time in the basement flows differently. It doesn't walk, it trickles, like water through stone, drop by drop, day after day, and every drop leaves its mark, sometimes on the walls, sometimes on the soul, and sometimes these drops wear away the stone. Spring of the year 1948. Andrei is 3 months old. He lies in the cradle cobbled together by Stepan from old boards and reaches his little hands toward the dusty ray of light penetrating through the crack in the ceiling, the only ray in their underground kingdom. Ecaterina looks at her son and thinks that he doesn't know what the sun is, the real sun. For him, the whole world means the 12 square meters of damp basement. Let's stop here. Think about this image. A child born in captivity, a baby for whom prison is the norm. He doesn't cry when he hears the noise of the bolt. He isn't scared of the semi-darkness. For him, this is the natural habitat, like water for a fish, like underground tunnels for a mole. But Ecaterina remembers another world, and this memory is simultaneously her curse and her salvation. Every day, putting her son to sleep, she tells him stories. Not the ones from books, but her own, about the world above. "When once upon a time there was a little boy named Andrei," she whispers, rocking the crib. And one day he came out of the dark cave into the light, and there was green grass. Do you know what grass is? They are tiny green threads that grow from the earth, and they are soft, soft. You can run barefoot through them. Andrei listens, his grey eyes wide open. Father's eyes. Unfortunately, but in them there is no madness, not for now. And there was also the huge, blue sky, without a ceiling, and clouds float on it. They are white pillows made of air, and the sun, a big and warm lantern that warms your face. Stories about simple things, about what for other children is everyday life, but for Andrei is fantasy. But while Ecaterina tells stories to her son, her fingers work slowly, methodically, unseen. The ventilation grate is old, yes, from before the war. Stepan reinforced it, bricked it into the wall, but he didn't take one thing into account: time and the tenacity of a mother who has a goal. Ecaterina found a nail, rusty, bent, fallen from some random board. Father didn't notice it, a trifle, but escape is composed of trifles. Every day, while Stepan is at the factory, Ecaterina works, scratching with the nail around the grate. Millimeter by millimeter, she scrapes the old mortar. When she hears footsteps, she hides the nail in the folds of her skirt, takes Andrei in her arms, pretends she is feeding him or rocking him. At first, Stepan is vigilant, checks every corner, inspects the walls, but months pass and his attention dulls. The child is born, the plan worked. Ecaterina has resigned herself, so it seems to him. She no longer tries to run, doesn't scream, doesn't throw hysterical fits. The ideal prisoner, the ideal mother for his dynasty. Look how he's growing, says Stepan, watching Andrei crawling on the floor. Strapping boy, the spitting image of his grandfather, the spitting image of his grandfather. He refers to himself. In his sick mind, he is a grandfather, only a grandfather. Soon we will start teaching him to read and write. I have old textbooks and an abacus. Let him grow up smart. Then, when he grows up more, we will tell him the truth about his purpose, about the purity of blood. She is silent. She learned to be silent in such a way that her silence is perceived as agreement. It is an art. To seem broken while remaining unbroken, to seem resigned while hatching a plan for revenge. Summer takes the place of spring. In the basement, it becomes unbearably stuffy. Andrei is fussy, cries at night. He is teething. But it's not just that. Instinctively, he feels something is wrong. Children need space, movement, fresh air, and he has 4 walls and the stale smell of mold. Ecaterina sees how pale her son's skin is, how thin his little arms are. Rickets approaches unseen. Lack of sun. Of vitamin D. She asks her father to bring fish oil. Cottage cheese. Stepan grumbles but brings it. After all, he needs a healthy air. Autumn of the year 1948. Andrei is 8 months old. He already stands holding onto the wall, takes his first steps. And every step of his is a reproach to the mother. First steps in prison, first words in captivity. "Mama!" he babbles, and Ecaterina cries softly so father won't hear. She cries not of joy, but of pain. Her son called her mother in his hell, and she, his mother, cannot offer him anything except stories about a non-existent world. Or maybe she can. The work on the grate advances slowly, painfully slowly. The mortar is old but hard. The nail gets dull, bends. She has to sharpen it on stone, straighten it. Her fingers are bloody, nails broken, but Ecaterina insists. By winter she scraped 1/3 of the perimeter. The grate moves very little if you pull hard, but it is little and time is short. Andrei is growing, becoming more active. Soon he will start asking questions. Why don't we go out? Why aren't there windows? Where are the other children? What will she answer him? The new year, 1949. They welcome it as a trio. Stepan brings a small tree, stunted but real. Andrei is delighted. He has never seen a tree, touches the needles, laughs when they prick him. Tree! Tree! He shouts, clapping his hands. Stepan smiles. In such moments, he looks almost like a normal grandfather enjoying his grandson. Almost. If you didn't know that this grandfather, stop, let's not forget. In his distorted world, Stepan doesn't consider himself a villain. He is the savior of the lineage, the keeper of traditions. He truly loves his daughter and grandson in his own way. It's just that his love is the love of a spider wrapping its victim in silk thread. The jailer's care for his prisoners. Spring of the year 1949. Andrei runs through the basement already, chatters constantly. Ecaterina teaches him letters, draws them with charcoal on a small board. A, B, the alphabet of the freedom he doesn't have. And here one day happens what Ecaterina feared most. "Mom?" asks Andrei, pointing to the ceiling. "But what is there?" "There." Ecaterina freezes. "There, up." "But what is that up?" Here it is, the moment of truth. What do you tell a child who knows nothing but the basement? How do you explain the existence of a world he has never seen? "Up," says Ecaterina slowly. "Live people, many people. And there is sun, and sky, and birds." "But why aren't we there?" "Why?" A child's question to which there is no child's answer. We cannot go there for now, but someday we will absolutely go, I promise. Andrei thinks, then nods. Children accept promises easily, believe easily, and this belief is another nail in the mother's heart. Work on the grate continues. By the summer of the year 1949, Ecaterina had scraped more than half. The grate already wobbles visibly. Just a little more, just a bit, but will she have the strength to pull it? And what is beyond the grate? The ventilation duct leads outside, that's for sure. But how narrow is it? Will she fit? What about Andrei? Stepan continues to come twice a day, but his visits become shorter. At the factory there is an emergency. The quota is burning. Sometimes he is late until late. Sometimes he brings dinner in a hurry, doesn't even sit to talk. That is good. That gives her more time. July 1949. Heat wave. In the basement it is stuffy as in an inferno. Andrei is lethargic, fussy. Ecaterina fans him with an old newspaper, tells him stories about snow and frost. But is snow real, he asks. Real, sunshine, everything is real, but when will I see it? Soon, very soon. And she isn't lying because the grate is almost free. Another 2 weeks or so of work, and she will be able to try to pull it out. August comes with suffocating heat and storms. Somewhere up there it thunders. Lightning strikes. In the basement it gets completely dark. Even that pitiful ray of light disappears behind the clouds. Andrei is afraid of thunder, clings to his mother, hides his face in her skirt. Don't be afraid, whispers Ecaterina. Only the sky is talking. But why so loud? Because the sky is big. Very, very big. And on one of these stormy nights, Ecaterina makes the final efforts. The grate gives way slowly, with a creak, but it gives way. Centimeter by centimeter, she pulls it from the socket. Done. The passage is open. Ecaterina looks inside. Darkness. A narrow pipe goes up at an angle. It smells of earth and rot, but somewhere there, far away, a barely perceptible movement of air is felt. Freedom. Now she has to choose the moment, wait for Stepan to stay at the factory longer, take the strictly necessary. And here, on one of the August nights, when Andrei turned 1.5 years old, Ecaterina heard what changed everything. There are nights that change destinies, overturn worlds, destroy some lives and start others. For Ecaterina Voronova, such a night was the 6th to the 7th of August, 1949. But let's not start with her. Let's start with Antonina Vassilievna Muhina, a widow of 64 years, who on that August night could not sleep because of the heat. Do you understand the irony of fate? Sometimes salvation comes from simple insomnia, from the fact that an elderly woman is hot and goes out into the yard to breathe the night air. Such trifles, such occurrences, and behind them, human lives. Antonina Vassilievna was sitting on the bench near her house. It was 12:30 at night. Silence. Only crickets chirping, and somewhere far away a dog barking. And suddenly a cry, a child's cry. At first, she thought she imagined it. Who knows, maybe a cat meowed. But no, again a distinct child's cry. And it comes from underground. Antonina Vassilievna was a determined woman. The war taught her. She approached the small basement window of the Voronov house, bricked up, but pressed her ear to the masonry, crying, definitely a child's crying. And another voice, a woman's voice, soothing the child. "Lord Jesus!" Antonina Vassilievna crossed herself. She knew Stepan was at the factory on the night shift. She saw him leaving at 10 in the evening. He won't return until morning, and if they're in the basement, truly. And now let's move down, to the basement. Ecaterina had been rocking Andrei for an hour already. The child was cutting canines, his gums were inflamed. He cried, thrashed, couldn't calm down at all. On any other night, she would have waited patiently for her son to fall asleep. But not today. Today, father left for the night shift for the first time in a long time. Usually he swapped with a colleague, avoided night shifts, but the colleague got sick. He had no choice. She has 8 hours. 8 hours. The ventilation grate is removed, hidden under the cot. The path is clear. Ecaterina already checked. Her head and shoulders fit. Further on, the pipe widens. It can be attempted, but Andrei... "Hush, little one, hush," she whispered, clutching her son to her chest. "Be patient a little longer. Soon we will go up to the sun, remember? I told you." But a 1.5-year-old child doesn't understand words about patience. He is in pain. He wants his mom, and mom is close. But why is she tense, trembling? Children feel the emotions of adults. Andrei started crying even louder. And then Ecaterina heard footsteps upstairs, near their basement window. She froze. Did father return? No. The steps are different. Lighter. A woman's. "Is someone there?" came a muffled voice. "Hey, in the basement!" Antonina Vassilievna. Ecaterina recognized the voice. What to do? Answer? But what if she doesn't hear through the bricked-up window? Stay silent? Lose the chance? Ecaterina made a decision, lifted Andrei higher, brought him closer to the bricked window, and pinched him. Cruel. Yes, but necessary. Andrei screamed loudly, piercingly, with resentment. "A god!" exclaimed Antonina Vassilievna upstairs. "A child! There is a child there!" The steps moved away. Ecaterina listened, counting the seconds. Did she go for help or get scared? 5 minutes, 10, 15, and again steps. Many steps and voices. "Look here, Antonina Vassilievna. I heard it for sure." "Maybe you imagined it, Antonia." A male voice. Young, it seems. Alexander Petrov, the neighbor's son. "What imagined? The child is crying in the basement where no one should be. Break it down." "But what if Voronov comes?" "To hell with Voronov. Break it, I say." Blows. Someone is hitting the brick masonry. But that is outside. And inside? Boards. The sound is muffled, doesn't penetrate. Ecaterina understood. This is her chance. The only one. While there is noise upstairs while they try to break the window, she must act. "Andrei!" She sat in front of her son, took his face in her palms. "Listen to Mama. We will now crawl into the pipe. Remember, I told you about the magic tunnel that leads to the sun." Andrei nodded, sniffing. For him, Mother's stories are the truth. You will be good. You will hug Mama tight and won't let go. Is it a deal? It's a deal. The little one nodded seriously. Ecaterina hoisted him up, placed him on her back, tied him with the corners of the headscarf. Village women carry children like this, tight, secure. Now the hardest part, getting into the ventilation duct. The pipe is narrow, rusty, the edges are sharp. Ecaterina immediately cut her palm, but the pain wakes her up, makes her focused. She pulled herself up, put her head and shoulders in. Andrei pressed against her back. He was silent. Smart boy. He feels the importance of the moment. Now further. Slow, agonizing climb, centimeter by centimeter. Skin peels on the rusty edges. The dress tears. Dust, dirt gathered for decades enters the lungs. But Ecaterina climbs stubbornly upwards, like a mole, like a worm, like any creature struggling from darkness to light. Do you understand what happens to a human? In such moments, ancient mechanisms activate, the same ones that helped our ancestors survive. Pain recedes, fatigue disappears, only the goal remains, to get out. The pipe turned, narrowed, widened again. A few times Ecaterina thought, that's it, I'm stuck. But Andrei on her back gave her strength. For herself, she could have given up. For him, never. And suddenly the air changed, became fresher, and ahead was no longer total darkness, but something grey. The twilight before sunrise. One last effort, her head came out of the pipe. Where is this? Ecaterina looked around. The backyard, behind the sheds. The ventilation brought her out far from the house. She made it out. She collapsed to the ground. Andrei slid off her back, sat next to her, and froze, looking around with huge eyes. Imagine, a child who lived a year and a half in a basement sees the world for the first time. The real world, the pre-dawn sky, grey, with pink veins in the east. Trees, dark silhouettes of giants. Boundless space, without walls and ceiling. "Mom," whispered Andrei, "is this up?" "Yes, son, this is up." He reached out his little hand, tried to touch the air, was surprised that his hand passes through it. He laughed softly, uncertainly, as if afraid to scare away the miracle. But they couldn't linger. Voices were heard from the house. Blows. Soon they will find the empty basement, raise the alarm. Ecaterina stood up, her legs wouldn't hold her. 2 years in a cramped space take their toll. But she forced herself to walk. She took Andrei in her arms. Where? To people, to those trying to break into the basement. She went around the shed, came out onto the street, and here her strength left her completely. Ecaterina fell to her knees in the middle of the dusty road. "Help!" Her voice broke into a wheeze. "Help us!" Someone was running toward her. Many people. Shouts, exclamations. Some hands took Andrei, others took her. The last thing Ecaterina saw before losing consciousness, Antonina Vasilievna's face, distorted by horror and compassion. Sunrise of the day of the 7th of August, 1949. Железнodorожная Street had never seen anything like it. Let's stop for a second. Close your eyes. Imagine a small provincial town where everyone knows everyone, where the loudest event of the last year was the escape of a chicken from the Petrov family. And suddenly a woman with a child falls out of a ventilation pipe. A woman everyone thought had left a year and a half ago. A woman in rags, covered in blood and rust, with the wild look of a hunted beast. And in her arms she has a child, pale as an underground mushroom, with huge and scared eyes. A child shying away from the rising sun as if it could burn him. Antonina Vasilievna was the first to snap out of it. The war taught her. In critical situations, there is no time for thinking. One must act. "Alexander!" she shouted at young Petrov. "Run for the feldsher! Quick! Maruska, bring water. The rest of you help." They took Ecaterina under the arms, carried her toward Antonina Vasilievna's house. She walked swaying, without letting go of Andrei from her arms. The boy clung to his mother like a tick. For him, these people are the first strangers he sees in his life. It is scary. How could it not be scary? "Ecaterina, child." Antonina Vasilievna tried to take the child. "Give him to me to hold. It's heavy for you." But Ecaterina only hugged her son tighter. In her eyes is an animal fear. Give the child away after all this? Never. Do you understand what happens to a person after long imprisonment? The psyche adapts to the lack of freedom, defense mechanisms form. And when freedom suddenly crashes down, it is a shock no smaller than the imprisonment itself. The world is too big, too bright, too strange. In Antonina Vasilievna's house, they sat Ecaterina in the kitchen. Someone brought warm water, a towel. Someone tried to make her drink tea, but she just sat, rocking Andrei. Is this really Voronov's daughter? It can't be. Where did the child come from? She wasn't married. Look how pale they are, as if they rose from the grave. The feldsher ran in, a young boy, barely out of the institute. He saw Ecaterina and froze. "God, Ekaterina Stepanovna, is that you?" She raised her eyes, empty, burnt eyes, and nodded. "Where were you? What happened? This child—" "Basement," Ekaterina mumbled, first word, after how long, an hour, 2. "Basement. Father locked me in the basement." 3 words. 3 words that don't fit in the mind, because Stepan Voronov, a respected man, foreman at the factory, widower. How could he? The militia! The feldsheriff was the first to snap out of it. The militia must be called. Immediately. I'll run, someone from the youth offered, and until then agitation, running around. Ecaterina sits and looks out the window. There, beyond the glass, is the world, the same one she told her son about. Trees, sky, people going about their business. Andrei looks too and suddenly points with his finger. A mom bird, like in the story, sparrow. An ordinary sparrow on the fence, but for a child who has never seen birds. Yes, sunshine, it is a bird. Sparrow. Sparrow, sparrow, repeats Andrei diligently. But is it alive? Alive. A child's question, for whom alive is only Mama, and sometimes the grandfather who comes. The rest are stories, and hear noise outside, shouts, stomping of feet. Voronov is coming, returning from the factory. Let's move for a second to Stepan Voronov. The night shift ended. He is tired but satisfied. The quota is met. The bosses praised him. He is walking home, thinking that now he will feed Ecaterina and the grandson. Then sleep. Ordinary morning, ordinary thoughts. And suddenly he sees the crowd near his house. Neighbors discussing something, gesturing. First thought, fire, but there is no smoke. Second, someone died, but people's faces are not mourning, but furious. What happened? He asks, approaching, and the crowd parts silently, threateningly. And there, in the middle of the street, stands Antonina Vassilyevna looking at him. Like that, you know, there are looks from which you want to sink into the ground. Exactly such a look. Monster, she says quietly. But in this silence is a sentence. Your daughter in the basement, animal, you are not human. Stepan pales, then turns red, then pales again. What are you about? What daughter? Ecaterina is in Kostroma. Your daughter is in your basement, 2 years in the basement with the child. Do you understand what happens at this moment? Stepan Voronov's world collapses. His secret, his mad plan, his perverse dream about a pure dynasty, all are exposed at once under the neighbors' gazes. He takes a step back, another one, and suddenly turns around. Runs. Where? Why? Reason disconnected, only instinct remained, to run. But he didn't run far. Alexander Petrov and another 2 young guys caught up with him, tackled him, hold him, don't let him get up. Alexander spits in his face. I've known Ecaterina since childhood. How could you? And he just bellows, something inarticulate. Done, the end. Crash. The militia car arrived. 2 in uniform jumped out. Lieutenant Senior Belov, experienced. He went through the war. What's with this gathering? What is it about? Everyone started talking at once. Basement, daughter, 2 years, child. Belov raised his hand. Quiet, one at a time. Where is the victim? They led him into Antonina Vassilyevna's house. Seeing Ecaterina, the lieutenant whistled in amazement. He had seen a lot, but something like this. Ecaterina Stepanovna, is this your name? She nodded. Can you tell what happened? Ecaterina opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. And silence. Words don't come. 2 years of silence, 2 years of fear. Vocal cords seem to have atrophied. Don't rush, said Belov gently. You are safe, no one will hurt you. Basement, she finally got out. Father locked me up, said purity of blood, lineage. Fragmented, tangled, but the picture clears up. Belov is an experienced investigator. He knows how to listen, knows how to assemble the puzzle from scraps of phrases. And the child? He asks cautiously. Is he your son? Ecaterina nods, hugs Andrei tighter. With whom? Silence. Long, heavy silence, then barely audible. Father said, for the continuation of the lineage. Here even the lieutenant, who had been through a lot, turned pale. The others, some cursed, some crossed themselves. Detain Voronov, Belov roared. Immediately! They dragged Stepan tied up with a smashed face. The boys didn't spare him. Stepan Voronov, the lieutenant began in an official tone. You are accused of illegal deprivation of liberty. He stumbled, looking for wording. Of crimes against the person, you have the right. You don't understand, Stepan shouted suddenly. It was necessary for the lineage, for the purity of blood. She is the last The last! A true Voronova! Shut his mouth, ordered Belov with disgust. They took Stepan to the car, but he kept trying to shout, to explain. That supposedly it isn't a crime, it's a duty. That the ancestors left with a dying wish, that God himself blessed it. Madness, pure uncovered madness, but a madness dressed in logic, in a system, in a perverse ideology of blood purity. And Ecaterina was still sitting in the kitchen, looking out the window. Andrei dozed off in her arms. Too many impressions for a child of 1.5 years. Ekaterina Stepanovna, said Belov gently, you must go to the hospital. You and the child. Medical checkup, treatment. And then what? Her voice sounded like a whisper. Then there will be a trial. Your father will answer for everything. Trial. A word so simple, but behind it is publicity, uproar, shame in the whole district. Everyone will find out, everyone will point fingers, but now Ecaterina didn't care about that. Now the main thing is that they are free. They are up. Andrei will have sun, sky, real birds, not from mother's stories. They led her to the militia car, another one, not the one where Stepan sat. Neighbors stepped aside, looking with pity, horror, curiosity. And here Andrei woke up, saw the car, got scared. Mom, what is this? This is a carriage, invented Ecaterina. The iron carriage will take us to a new house, and there will be sun. Yes, my dear, there will be a lot of sun. The car started. Ecaterina turned around, looked at the house where her childhood passed, at the basement window bricked up, at the crowd of neighbors. The end. No, just the beginning of a new life. Hard, full of trials, but free. And while the militia car was taking Stepan Voronov away, no one yet knew what revelations awaited the investigation. Do you know what is the most terrible thing in this history? Not the basement, not the 2 years of imprisonment, not even the way little Andrei came into the world. The most terrible is what happened later at the trial, because Stepan Voronov never admitted his guilt. But let's take it in order. The investigation lasted 3 months. 3 months during which the small provincial town lived only with this story. Newspapers were full of headlines. True, cautious, evasive. Monstrous crime on Zhelesnodoroznaya Street. Father monster will appear before justice, saved from underground captivity. Investigator Belov, the same lieutenant who came that August morning, handled the case with special thoroughness. The war taught him to see the worst in people, but this exceeded any limit. First interrogation of Stepan Voronov. The transcript was preserved in archives. To read it is like looking into the abyss of human madness. Question. Do you plead guilty to the illegal deprivation of liberty of your daughter? Answer. What deprivation of liberty? I protected her from the world, from filth, from the mixing of blood. Question. Did you keep her in the basement against her will for 2 years? Answer. I preserved the purity of the lineage. This is my duty, as a father, as the last keeper of the true blood of the Voronovs. And so on, page after page. Stepan did not deny, on the contrary, he told with pleasure about his plan, about how he thought everything through after his wife's death, how he prepared the basement, how he put sleeping pills. The investigator asked questions about the child. Here Stepan blossomed, like a proud grandfather. The boy is a blessing, clean blood, a true Voronov. He will grow up strong, smart, will continue the lineage. To the question if he understands the monstrosity of the deed, Stepan answered with metal in his voice. Monstrosity. Monstrous is when ancient lineages mix with whoever comes along. When the blood dilutes, weakens, I saved my lineage from degeneration. Psychiatric expertise. 3 professors from Moscow. Verdict, responsible, scary, true. The man who committed such a thing was declared sane. He simply had his own system of values, his own logic, perverse, monstrous, but consistent. And Ecaterina all this time stayed in the hospital. Her condition was described by doctors with caution. Extreme exhaustion, psychological trauma, partial aphasia. That is when a person cannot speak normally due to the stress experienced. Andrei adapted faster. Children in general are more plastic than adults. In a week, he was already running through the hospital yard, trying to catch pigeons, laughing when he saw a dog. For him, every day up was a discovery. But at night, At night he woke up with screams, looked for Mama, was afraid he would end up in the basement again. The trial was scheduled for November, behind closed doors, due to the delicacy of the case. But in the small town, there are no secrets. Everyone knew everything, or thought they knew. On the day of the trial, Ecaterina saw her father for the first time in 3 months. He had aged, turned white, but the look remained the same, fanatical, unyielding. "Do you know what happens to the victim when meeting the tormentor?" Psychologists say reactions can be different. Fear, hatred, sometimes even a strange, perverse attachment. Stockholm Syndrome. For Ecaterina, there was nothing, emptiness. She looked at her father like at a stranger, like at an exhibit in the Museum of Monsters. The trial lasted 3 days. Witnesses, neighbors, midwife Fekla, they brought her by the arms. The old woman barely held herself from shame and horror. Doctors. The hardest moment was when they read the medical conclusion about the child's origin. Dry clinical terms, but behind them the monstrous truth. Stepan all this time sat with his back straight, sometimes nodding, as if agreeing. When he was given the last word, he stood up and delivered a speech, a calm, measured speech of a madman convinced of his righteousness. "You judge me by human laws, but there are higher laws, laws of the lineage, laws of blood. I fulfilled my duty, I preserved the purity of the Voronov line. History will justify me." Sentence: 25 years of correctional labor camps. The hall met the sentence with silence. What else is there to say? Fair? Little? Much? How can one measure such a crime in years? They took Stepan away. He walked with his head held high, unyielding, unbroken, mad. And Ecaterina? Ecaterina decided the same day. They will leave as far as possible from this town, from this house, from everything that reminds them. The state allocated them a room in a communal apartment in a city 300 kilometers away. New documents. She took her mother's maiden name, New Life. The first year was the hardest. Ecaterina got a job at a sewing factory. Andrei at the nursery. The apartment neighbors, ordinary Soviet people, accepted their story. Husband died in the war, left the two of them. Simple and plausible, but traumas don't disappear by waving a magic wand. Ecaterina couldn't sleep without light, was panic-stricken by basements, flinched at the sound of the key in the lock. Andrei grew up a strange child, smart beyond his years, but closed off. At kindergarten he avoided other children. He could stand for hours at the window, looking at the sky. "Mom!" he asked once. He was already 4 years old. "But why do other children have fathers?" What to answer him, the truth, the lie. "Your father went very far away and will not return." "But grandfather? The one who came to us downstairs?" Downstairs. He remembered. Of course he remembered. Grandfather also left forever. Andrei nodded, didn't ask any more. Smart boy. Too smart. Years passed. Ecaterina married a widower from the front, a good man who asked no unnecessary questions. Other children were born, normal, noisy, sunny children. But Andrei remained special. The firstborn of darkness, the child of the basement. At school he studied brilliantly, especially exact sciences. Teachers predicted a great future for him, but there was a detachment in him, like an invisible wall between him and the world. Ecaterina never told him the truth. How to explain to a child, a teenager, a young man, that he is the fruit of madness, that his grandfather and father are the same person, that he spent the first year and a half of his life in a basement. Sometimes letters came from the camp. Stepan wrote regularly. Ecaterina burned the envelopes without opening them. But once curiosity won. The handwriting hadn't changed, neat, old-fashioned, and the words of a madman, who repented of nothing. "Dear daughter, I know you are reading this. How is my grandson? Is he growing as a worthy continuator of the lineage? Remember." Ecaterina couldn't read further. She burned the letter and never opened envelopes with the camp stamp again. Stepan Voronov died in the camp in the year 1968. He didn't live until release by 7 years. Ecaterina learned about this from an official notification. She read it, folded the paper, and nothing, neither joy nor pain, emptiness. Andrei by then was already living in Moscow. He had finished physics-mathematics at the university, married a good girl. He wasn't rushing to have children. "It's not time yet," he said. Ecaterina understood. He was afraid of that darkness that possibly slumbers in his genes. He was afraid to repeat. He just didn't know, but he felt. Children of the basement feel darkness more acutely than others. And then, many years later, Ecaterina was sitting at the window of her apartment, already not communal, a separate two-room apartment. It is the year 1985. She is 67 years old, gray-haired, a hunched woman with the stamp of lived experiences on her face. Beyond the window, children are playing in the yard. Normal children, from smaller children, noisy, cheerful, who do not know darkness. And suddenly, the doorbell rings. "Mom, it's me, Andrei." Now already Mikhail Andreevich, candidate of physico-mathematical sciences, a serious man with glasses. "Come in, son. Let's have tea." They sit in the kitchen, silent. Then Andrei takes out a folder. "Mom, I found something in the archives. The file, grandfather's file." Ecaterina freezes. Here it is, after almost 40 years. "Why do you need this?" "I need to know the whole truth about who I am, where I am from." And Ecaterina tells everything for the first time from beginning to end. About the basement, about father's madness, about how Andrei came into the world. He listens silently. His face is stone, only his fingers squeeze the cup so hard his knuckles turn white. "Forgive me," whispers Ecaterina. "Forgive me that it turned out this way." "Mom." Andrei stands up, hugs her. For the first time in so many years, he hugs her truly without that invisible wall. "It's not your fault. Nothing is your fault. You saved us. You took us out of the darkness." And here Ecaterina cries. For the first time in all these years, she cries truly, not of pain, but of relief. And beyond the window, children play, laugh, shout, live a normal, sunny life. That life which Ecaterina gave to her son at the cost of 2 years in darkness. And do you know something? Looking at these children, at her son, at her life, built from the shards of nightmare, Ecaterina smiles. For the first time in 40 years, she smiles.